If you've come across this video, that probably means that you signed up for your first triathlon. Congratulations. I'm not an expert, but I just completed my first one, so I figured this would be a good time to talk about my experience and give you a couple of tips and tricks along the way. The things that got me through my first triathlon hopefully will, because they're so fresh on my mind, because I'm so new to the sport, hopefully they'll get you to the finish line. Okay, so I'm going to talk about my experience, things that helped me out for the most part. So I'm going to structure this just like we do swim, bike, run. So we'll talk about the individual pieces. We'll talk about transition tips that really helped me out. And we will talk about the gear and what you need, what you don't need. Okay, so you've signed up for your first triathlon, swim, bike, run. I hope that you sign up for sprint distance, and you may want to go all in and do another distance, but I highly recommend starting with a sprint distance. My first triathlon was the Ferrell Music City Triathlon. So that was a 300 meter swim, 20K bike, and 5K run. Step one, hopefully you are coming from an area of strength. Maybe your strength is cycling or running. Step one is to identify that strength, if you have it. So for me, it was running. I just finished a marathon, and so the 5K run, the runs can always be challenging, but I know I can do that. If you have a strength you can identify, congratulations. That means you do not need to focus on that as much, especially with the sprint distance. So that's why I recommend starting small. That way you have your other two categories that you can focus on more. So that's tip number one. So let's get into the different categories. The swim is probably the largest barrier to entry for triathlons in general. There's a lot of fear around drowning, and I know how to swim, but I don't know how to swim competitively. Your first goal for the swim is just to be comfortable spanning the distance, okay? So what I did personally was just cover that distance in the pool. You can do 100-meter sets and build up, or 200-meter sets and build up to that distance. Just get to the point where you feel like you can cover it. Tip number two is, if you can swing it, if you have enough time, if you have access, doing at least one open water swim prior to the race is going to go a long way. I did not get a chance to do the open water swim. I had a very small window to train for, and the day that I was planning on doing it, weather just didn't work out. I have done some other recreational open water swims in the past, and so I was just leaning on that past experience to get me through it. Wetsuit or no wetsuit, that is entirely up to you. For just getting into the sport, I think you should go as minimal as possible. What I did was no wetsuit. I swam in tri-shorts and a cycling jersey, and that was what I wore the entire time. Be comfortable covering the distance. Don't worry about your technique too much. Your opportunity to get better at swimming will come later. Just feel comfortable covering the distance. The water could be cold. Water temperature was 68 degrees on my triathlon, and luckily I was only in the water for a couple minutes. So they gave me a red cap to basically keep it a closer eye on me, because this is my first triathlon. This is my first open water swim. It's also okay to look like an idiot on your first triathlon. You're going to do some things wrong. You'll figure some things out on the day of. It's okay. Everyone's pretty nice about it. I just inherently learned through observing that I had been training with my swim cap on sideways. I learned the day of how to actually wear your swim cap. For swim, it was a 300-meter swim. I was in the water for 3 minutes and 43 seconds. That equates to 74.3 seconds for 100 yards. So another tip would be to choose the right race for the right distance. The Cumberland River was very fast that day, and that works to your advantage if you're new to the swimming. It means you're going to spend less time in the water, less time to panic, or just less time. Okay, T1. T1 is usually a barefoot run back to transition. So keep that in mind. You need to be a little bit comfortable running barefoot some of these times. It was not a long distance to the transition area, but overall, just practice running barefoot a little bit so that you don't hurt yourself. T1 is getting ready to go bike. I'll give you a couple tips. One, get your helmet on. Two, dry your feet off with a small towel a little bit. And this is going to lead us into talking about the bike in general. If this is your first triathlon, do you need to spend thousands of dollars on a bike? And the answer is no. My advice is to get in with as cheap of a bike as you possibly can. For me, that was getting a used road bike at RB Cyclery in Brentwood, Tennessee. Shout out to them. Super amazing store. Go to your local bike shop. Tell them what you're trying to do. I got a used road bike. It's a Moto B Cane for $250. They gave me platform pedals because that is another variable that I was not ready for. The cycling shoes. So, do you need clipless pedals and cycling shoes for your first triathlon? No, you do not need that. For me, that was just one more variable that I did not want to figure out prior to the race. So I used platform pedals and barefoot shoes for the bike. Another tip about the bike is your goal should not be to beat anybody. You're not going to beat the pros. Your first triathlon, you're not going to come close. So your goal is not to win, your goal is to finish. Okay, this is just getting you introduced to the sport, getting you used to the process. So right after the swim, on the bike, I was still sucking wind from the swim for the first 4 miles. I was out of breath. My race was right before going on a big family trip. So my goal was just not crash and make it to the finish line for every single category. Side note, you may observe this in your first triathlon or any other triathlons. There will be very expensive bikes that do not make it to the finish line. They get a flat tire or their gears aren't working right. There were multiple bikes that DNF'd that cost more than my car. Don't come out of the gate spending a lot of money on your first bike. You can use any bike. Do you need aero bars? That is up to you. I got aero bars for my bike. I put them on. I only got to use them a couple times prior to the race. Still not entirely comfortable with them yet. Between my first and second triathlon now, there were a lot of bumps on the course, and I just did not feel comfortable using them in the moment. I barely used them. You're welcome to get them. Do you need them? Absolutely not. Okay, so you're done with the bike. One of my favorite moments of the bike was actually the dismount. So there are videos that talk about the flying dismounts. If you don't have cycling shoes on, it even makes it easier. So I was able to do flying dismount, got some cheers. That was fun. And then we transitioned to the run. You get back to the transition area for T2. Rack your bike, helmet off, running shoes on, race belt on, hat on, and off you go to the run. This is what I used for my run. I used the Topo Athletic Cyclone 2s. For the very first time, I was excited about using them. Finally got to use them. Love them. Love running in my Cyclone 2s when I can. So that was the first race I used the Topos for. And then you run 5K. They had a lot of aid stations because it's the last thing. For the bike and swim, sunglasses. You want to wear sunglasses. Now, I trained in these. These are prescription sunglasses. I can't do contacts. I made it this far without doing them. I'm not going to start now. I was doing cycling, training on the bike with these sunglasses on. If you notice, there's not a lot of protection here. These don't wrap around and protect. I had some debris or a bug or something fly into my eye from the side, and I had a sty for a week. Not fun. The whole point of wearing sunglasses while you're cycling is to protect your eyes and also be able to see. So I raced in these. I ordered these. These are from Rudy Project. These have a prescription insert that you can get your prescription for, but these wrap around and protect. I ordered these. I wanted to race in these, but they did not show up in time. But I recommend getting something for your eye protection. Yeah. So these are super cool. These are from Rudy Project. These are the Defender line. A lot of sunglasses out there. It gets a little bit more difficult when it comes to prescription. So I went with the Rudy Project. So there's an insert so that whole part pops out. No affiliate link. I'm not sponsored by Rudy Project or anything. I just had a hard time finding sunglasses with prescription options, and Rudy Project came through in a way. I have them now, but I didn't have them for the race. Ended up wearing these, and that was okay. When you sign up for a triathlon, you'll probably have to sign up for a USAT membership. I would recommend doing the bronze level single day membership to get started. If you think you're going to do multiple races in 1 year, then do that, and you can get a better membership that way. But most likely you're going to do a handful. Whatever. It takes X amount of bronze single day passes to equate to a higher level pass. So it depends upon how many races you think you'll do in a year to make it worth it. Also, Rudy Project, keep an eye on sales. Even through the USAT website, you'll get advertisements for sales and deals. So Labor Day sales, or there was a Memorial Day sale, there's a July 4th sale. There'll probably be sales throughout the year, so just keep an eye on that. Helmet. I already had a helmet. You don't need an expensive Aero helmet to protect your head. Your head is the most important part of your body. Just protect your head. Get a good helmet so you don't need to look like a triathlete yet. You can if you want, but you're just going to spend more money. It's not worth it yet. Okay, so here's a breakdown of everything that I spent for the triathlon: swim, bike, and run. What would I do differently? One, I would focus on the swim a little bit more. Technique is important with swimming, especially with breathing. For bike, I probably would not spend the time on the aero bars yet. I did not use them, spent a lot of time trying to get them balanced right. Was not comfortable on race day using them, so I barely used them. And no regrets on the cycling shoes. I did not want that to be a complication, to have to learn and get used to clipping in and clipping out. No regrets there. The run was fun. Run was easy. Nutrition, I don't think I did much nutrition on this one. And I recommend looking elsewhere for nutrition advice. Just stay hydrated, eat well, fuel prior to the race. Bring a gel or something along the way if you feel like you need to fuel up. Also, your number one goal here is to not win. You're not going to win unless you are a freak of nature. Your goal is to have fun and to finish and to be prepared enough to want to do it again. My first triathlon was in June, Eddie Ferrell, Music City. I'm doing the River Bluff Triathlon in Ashland City in August. And then after that is going to be the decision to train for either an Olympic distance or go for half Ironman next year. Maybe the Chattanooga 70.3. All right, this is what I got. I got a cycling jersey and the tri shorts. I'm going to wear the whole time. Goggles, cap, optional nose plug, bike shoes with socks, towel for the run, helmet obviously, 2 water bottles, some nutrition, my Cyclone 2s, extra socks, race belt, sunglasses are in tow somewhere. All right, Music City Tri Sprint is done. Average athlete at this point. Swim was cold, thankfully fast because I'm a terrible swimmer. Bike was pretty fun, bumpy, and the run was still in the shade. Third fastest 5K. Overall, a really good time. And now it's time to pack up and go home and get ready to go to Portugal. Thanks for watching, and good luck on your first try.